This happened last August, just before summer officially ended. That weird in-between season where the tourists are gone, the boardwalks are half closed, and the beaches feel empty, not peaceful, but hollow. Like something's missing. My friend Kayla invited me and two others, Danny and Mia, for a final girls' week at her aunt's beach house in Merrill Bay. It's a small town in Massachusetts barely anyone's heard of. The kind of place with foggy mornings, gray wood houses, and seaweed-smelling winds. Kayla's aunt was out of the country, and we had the house to ourselves. It was a 3-story Victorian-style home at the end of a winding lane, surrounded by dunes. As soon as we got there, I noticed something weird. A padlocked door on the top floor, with a "Do Not Enter" sign nailed crookedly into the wood. When I asked Kayla, she said her aunt used it for storage. "Old family junk," she said with a shrug. But the way she said it, quick, like she wanted to change the subject, made me uneasy. The first night was normal. We cooked pasta, drank boxed wine, and passed out early. The sound of waves crashing was kind of soothing, actually. For a moment, I thought I might actually relax. The next morning, the light in the house felt wrong. Dim, even though the sky outside was bright and cloudless. It was like the sunlight just didn't reach us. I mentioned it, but Kayla just brushed it off. "Old house," she said. Then came the knocking. At first, it was faint. 3 soft knocks. I thought I imagined it. But Mia heard it too. We all paused. It came again. Same pattern. 3 knocks, then silence. It was coming from the locked room upstairs. We laughed it off. "Probably just the wood shifting," Danny said. But we all glanced at each other when we said it, like none of us really believed that. The second night, the knocks got louder, harder. I was brushing my teeth when I heard them echo down the hallway. I froze. There it was again, 3 distinct, deliberate knocks. I looked toward the staircase. Total silence now. That night, I barely slept. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps creaking across the ceiling above my room. Slow, dragging, like someone pacing back and forth. Nobody said anything the next morning. We just moved slower, kept closer together. When I checked my phone, I saw a photo Kayla had posted last summer at the house, taken from the top floor. The weird thing? There was no door in the picture. The wall was flat, with a bookshelf. Now, there was a padlocked door in that exact spot. When I showed her the photo, Kayla stared at it for a long time. "That's not possible," she whispered. "It's always been there." But we both knew that wasn't true. That night, we made a pact. No one goes upstairs. Lock your doors. Keep together. Try to sleep. It didn't matter. Sometime after midnight, the knocking returned. But this time, it moved. Started on the top floor, then came down to the second. Closer. Louder. Like someone was walking the hall, stopping at every door. Then the handle to our bedroom jiggled. We screamed. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and pointed it at the door. It stopped. We stayed up until dawn, hearts racing. When morning finally came, we packed. But when we tried to leave, the front door wouldn't open. It wasn't locked, it was stuck. Like the wood had swelled shut. Kayla tried the back door. Same thing. We were trapped. The house was colder than usual. It felt like the heat had been sucked out. Mia sat on the stairs, hugging herself. "It doesn't want us to leave," she mumbled. I didn't want to believe her, but she was right. Then Kayla's phone buzzed. A voicemail from her aunt. It had just come through, even though it was time-stamped 2 days earlier. Her voice was trembling. "Kayla, listen to me. Whatever you do, do not open the locked door. It's not storage. It's a room that should never be opened. I thought I sealed it. I thought it was over. I don't know how you ended up there. I never meant for you to go back. Please leave. Now." Static. Then silence. We stared at each other. None of us said anything. I think we were all trying to process the same thing. Go back. What did that mean? Suddenly, we heard it again. A single knock coming from inside the house. But this time, it wasn't from the top floor. It was right behind the living room wall. I stood up slowly, walked over to it, and pressed my ear against the wood. Silence. Then, breathing. Not mine, not anyone else's. Low, raspy, and steady, like something was waiting. I backed away and grabbed Kayla's car keys. We're leaving, I don't care how. We opened a second-story window and climbed down using the trellis. It cracked under our weight, but didn't break. We ran barefoot across the gravel, bleeding, crying, until we reached the road. Kayla drove us straight to the police station. They thought we were on something. Wrote a report, laughed it off. But when Kayla's aunt returned a week later, she called us crying. Said the padlock was gone. The room was open, but there was nothing inside. Just scratch marks on the floor and handprints on the inside of the door. This happened 3 summers ago, and to this day, I still don't understand what we saw. My cousin Eli and I were invited to stay with our childhood friend Jordan at his family's beach cabin in a remote place called Sand Hollow along the Oregon coast. It wasn't a resort town, more like an abandoned stretch of land with a few aging cabins scattered across the dunes, surrounded by nothing but cliffs and gray ocean. Jordan's dad had inherited the place from his grandfather. It had no internet, barely any cell signal, and ran on propane and solar panels. For 3 guys trying to disconnect and chill for a long weekend, it was perfect, or so we thought. The first day was normal. We grilled, walked along the empty shore, skipped rocks, and made dumb jokes around the fire pit. But that first night, something felt off. I remember lying in the top bunk and realizing how quiet everything was. Not peaceful, not calm, dead quiet. No crickets, no wind, no waves. Just an unnatural stillness. And then came the noise. It was around 2 a.m. when I heard the humming. Low, mechanical, rhythmic, like an engine idling in the distance. I thought maybe it was one of the neighbors' generators, but Jordan said the nearest cabin was a half-mile away, and it had been abandoned for years. The humming lasted 10 minutes, then silence. We brushed it off the next morning, even laughed about how paranoid we'd gotten in the dark. We went hiking near a cliff ridge and came across an old wooden sign, half buried in the sand. It had no words, just a red triangle carved into the wood with strange runes scratched below it. Eli took a picture of it and joked that we'd stumbled onto a witch's property. But Jordan wasn't laughing. He stared at the sign for a long time, then told us his grandfather once warned him to avoid that side of the beach. He called it the Hollow, Jordan said. Said it had rules. What rules? He never explained. Just said if you ever hear 3 knocks in a row, you leave immediately. That night, the power went out. Not in the house, everywhere. The porch light flickered and died. Our phones, which were already struggling to get signal, suddenly turned off. Even Jordan's watch stopped ticking. That was weird. Even weirder was what happened next. Around 11 p.m., we heard footsteps outside. Not footsteps in the sand on the deck, like boots dragging across wood. We killed the lantern and stayed perfectly still. I could hear someone breathing just outside the door. Then, knock, knock, knock. 3, exactly. My blood turned to ice. Jordan looked at us, panic in his eyes. That's it. That's what he meant. None of us moved. The knocks came again. Knock, knock, knock. I reached for the flashlight, but it wouldn't turn on. Batteries were new. It just wouldn't work. Same with our phones. We had no light, no sound, no power, just this pitch black cabin with someone or something knocking at the front door every few seconds. Eventually, the knocking stopped. We thought it was over. We were wrong. About 20 minutes later, we heard tapping, but not on the door. From inside the cabin. Jordan slowly turned his head toward the kitchen, where the sound was coming from. We waited, holding our breath. I'll never forget the way Eli whispered, "There's something moving under the floor." We rushed into Jordan's room and pushed a dresser in front of the door. That's where we stayed until dawn, clutching fireplace tools as weapons and praying the sun would come up faster. When morning finally came, we stepped outside and scanned the property. Nothing looked disturbed except for the sand around the perimeter of the cabin. There were hundreds of footprints circling the house, and in front of the porch, 3 small mounds in the sand, perfectly shaped like graves. Jordan called his dad. We could hear the tremble in his voice. His dad didn't hesitate. "Pack your things. Get out. Don't look back." We didn't argue. We threw our gear in the back of the Jeep and started the drive down the long dirt road toward the main highway. I remember glancing back one last time through the rear window. The red triangle symbol was drawn in the sand behind us. When we got back to the city, Eli checked his phone. The photo he'd taken of that sign? Corrupted. Just a black square. He tried to upload it to his computer. Same thing. That would be the end of it. Except it wasn't. A few nights later, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. When I played it, all I heard was that same humming noise from the cabin. And then, knock, knock, knock. 3 slow knocks. I deleted the message and changed my number, but I still hear it sometimes. Not from a phone, from the walls, from the ceiling, always in 3s. I was working remotely that summer, and I thought renting a quiet place by the sea would help me focus. Found a listing online for a 2-story beach house at the end of a narrow peninsula called Tidebreaker Point. The price was suspiciously low, but I figured it was just off-season discounting. It looked normal in the pictures, slightly weathered but charming, with white siding, sea blue shutters, and a wraparound deck. What sold me was the view. Endless gray ocean crashing against black rocks below. I booked it for a month. The first few days were peaceful. Too peaceful, maybe. The only road leading to the property was so overgrown with weeds and brush it looked like no one had driven it in years. The mailbox at the entrance was rusted shut. When I asked the rental company about it, they just said the owner preferred low traffic. Inside, the house had a dated feel. Knickknacks everywhere, dusty doilies, old-fashioned floral wallpaper. But it was clean and stocked with everything I needed. I unpacked, set up my laptop, and got to work. On the second night, I was sitting on the deck sipping wine and listening to the waves when I noticed something strange. There were no seagulls. Not a single bird in the sky or along the shore. Not the next morning either, or the morning after that. No gulls. No crows, no insects buzzing, just ocean and silence. I tried to ignore it. Then, one afternoon while I was taking a break, I found a notebook tucked behind the books on the living room shelf. It was old, leather cover, yellow pages, brittle edges. Someone had scribbled journal entries in it. Each entry was dated, and the last was from 10 years ago. The handwriting was frantic, getting messier the further I read. The entries started normal, complaints about weather, loneliness, power outages. Then things got disturbing. The mirror in the upstairs hallway doesn't reflect the hallway anymore. The rocking chair creaks when I'm not in the room. At 3:11 every night, the front door unlocks itself. I stopped reading right there and slammed the book shut. But that night, I woke up exactly at 3:11 a.m. I don't know why. I wasn't having a nightmare. I wasn't hot or cold. I was just suddenly awake. The silence was total. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Then I heard the sound. Click. The unmistakable sound of a deadbolt turning. I froze. I wanted to believe I imagined it. That maybe the house was settling. But I knew it wasn't that. I could feel the air shift, like the door had actually opened. I didn't check. I couldn't. I stayed in bed, gripping my phone like it was a weapon until sunlight bled through the blinds. When I finally got the courage to go downstairs, the front door was closed, but not locked, and there were wet footprints leading from the entrance into the living room. They weren't mine. I called the rental company to demand answers. A woman with a sweet voice apologized and said sometimes the house had issues with the old locks and that I should just keep a chair wedged under the doorknob if it made me feel better. That night, I did exactly that. It didn't help. I woke again at exactly 3:11 a.m. This time, I heard more than the door. I heard footsteps, slow, dragging ones across the wood floor below me. Then I heard the stairs creak. One step, two, three, closer, closer. I reached for my phone, ready to call 911, but it was dead, even though I had charged it that evening. I held my breath as the steps reached the top. The hallway floorboards groaned. Then I heard something worse. Breathing. Right outside my bedroom door. I stayed perfectly still. I don't know how long I waited, minutes? An hour? I just lay there, heart pounding, staring at the door in the dark. Eventually, the breathing stopped. The steps retreated. Silence. But I didn't sleep again. I called a locksmith the next morning, paid extra for rush service. He replaced the deadbolt, double-checked all the windows, and gave me a secondary bar lock for good measure. That night, I poured myself a drink and told myself it was over, that it had to have been in my head. Stress, isolation. Then I found the mirror. I hadn't noticed it before, an antique standing mirror in the attic guest room. It was turned to face the wall. Curious, I rotated it. It didn't reflect me. It reflected the hallway. But the hallway wasn't empty. A figure stood in the reflection. Just a shadow at the far end. No features. No movement. Just stillness. I turned around quickly. Nothing there. Turned back to the mirror. The figure was closer. I dropped the mirror. It shattered. I ran out of that room and didn't go back in. I left the next morning. Didn't pack. Didn't call the rental company. I just grabbed my laptop and left everything else. Later that day, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. I played it. Silence! Then a breath. Then the sound of a deadbolt unlocking. Click. Then the voicemail ended. When I checked my rental agreement, something struck me. The contract didn't list an owner. There was no name, no signature, just a typed phrase at the bottom. Do not stay past the third night. I had stayed 4.